What's up guys, it's Pete here from the Gaming Careers YouTube channel, and today we're going to be going over the ultimate guide to setting up your live stream with OBS Studio. A couple of advisories before we get started. This is a video guide on how to set up OBS Studio for PC. So if you're looking for a guide for Mac or for Xbox One or PS4, then check out the Gaming Careers YouTube channel for those appropriate videos. Secondly, this video is quite long. I really wanted to create a video that went into a bit more detail on the OBS Studio settings, because there's a lot of videos on YouTube right now that sort of recommend certain settings for your Twitch or YouTube stream, but really it depends on your computer specs and whereabouts in the world you are and what internet connection you have, as well as 100 other things. So I wanted to go into a little bit more detail to make sure that you got the best setup possible for your scenario. So since this video is quite long, I'm going to make it easy for you guys to navigate by putting timestamps down in the description below so that you can skip ahead to certain parts if you only require to know about certain settings. And I'm also just going to quickly go through what we'll be covering in this guide now. Firstly, I'll just go over a brief introduction to OBS Studio and the differences between OBS Classic and OBS Studio. Then we'll move on to downloading and installing OBS Studio. Thirdly, we'll be looking at the general settings for OBS Studio, so things like which Twitch server to stream to, what bitrate should you be streaming at, as well as how can you record and stream at the same time if that's something that you're looking to do. Fourth, we'll be looking at the OBS audio settings, and then fifth, we'll be looking at the video settings for OBS, including things like resolution and FPS, what FPS you should be streaming at. And then finally, we'll wrap up by talking about the adding sources and adding scenes into OBS so that you can start your live stream. So I've added the timestamps in the description below if you want to skip ahead and you've already installed OBS, but we'll start by comparing OBS Studio with OBS Classic. So firstly, what is OBS? Well, OBS stands for Open Broadcast Software, and it's a free and open source piece of software to help you live stream and record video. OBS Classic has been around since late 2012 and very quickly became the most popular streaming application for people looking to stream to Twitch or to YouTube. OBS Studio, which was previously called OBS Multi-Platform, has had its code completely rewritten from the ground up to take advantage of some of the newer hardware and software technologies that have come around since OBS Classic started development. Really, in short, this just means that OBS Studio will perform much better on newer, current systems. As the previous name, OBS Multi-Platform, suggests, OBS Studio also works with a number of different operating systems, notably Windows 7, 8 and 10, as well as Mac and Linux platforms. OBS Studio also brought some new features, most notably Studio Mode, which is, I guess, why OBS Studio is called what it is. Studio Mode allows users to make changes to scenes and sources without having to change the output. You can then push these changes to live. So this helps with any kind of broadcasting or professionalism in your stream. They also added the ability to add filters. Some of the plugins became part of the actual program, most notably the browser source plugin, and all sources are global, but we'll cover more of those later on in the video. So downloading and installing OBS Studio, you want to point your web browser of choice to obsproject.com, and in the top left you should see some options to download OBS Studio for various different operating systems. Click the green button which matches your platform and download the installation file. Next, just go through the installation process as you would with any other program and launch the application. Once you've launched the application, it should look something like this, and it's worth just changing a couple of quick simple options before we get into the bulk of the OBS settings pages. Firstly, click the profile option and select rename. Rename the profile to whatever you'd like, but I would suggest using your Twitch or YouTube channel name. You can have as many different profiles as you like, and each of them will hold their own settings and stream sources and stream scenes. This can be useful if sometimes you stream to a different Twitch channel or for the purpose of a talk show or hosting a competition, etc. For now, we'll just be concentrating on using and setting up one profile. Next, we want to rename our source collection to, again, whatever you'd like. A scene collection is exactly as it suggests. It's a collection of all your scenes and their settings. Having multiple different scene collections is useful for those that stream different games and hence need slightly different setups for each game. Don't worry if you don't understand all the terminology right away. We'll get to that once we start setting up our scenes and sources. Right, it's time to knuckle down and get some real work done. The OBS Studio settings page may look intimidating, but once you have an understanding of what each setting does and what value is best for your setup, it's no harder than the installation. So let's get into it. Start by clicking the settings button in the lower right. We're going to work through these tabs one at a time. We'll start with the General tab. Choose your language of choice and also the option for different themes, dark or light. I prefer the dark theme, so I'm going to select dark here. The next two checkboxes give you the option of showing a confirmation box whenever you go live and or stop your stream. If you're worried about ever accidentally going live or accidentally ending your stream when you didn't mean to, this is a useful confirmation box to have. If you're going to want to record to your hard drive at the same time as you're streaming live to the internet, then check the automatically record when streaming box. This is pretty useful if you want to later edit your footage from your stream and you want to have a higher quality recording than what you can stream at. This may have a little bit of impact on your computer's performance, but it's unlikely to be too noticeable. If it does have too much of an impact on your computer and you still want to have saved VODs of what you've streamed live, you can use an online tool such as Twitch Down, which I'll link to in the description. This allows you to download your Twitch streams from the Twitch website, and then you can edit them after that. To finish off the General tab, there are some source alignment snapping options. In short, these allow for easier positioning of sources when setting up your stream, as they will snap into place with the edge of the screen or with the other sources. I recommend leaving these as default. Moving on to the Stream tab, the first option, Stream Type, can be left as default on streaming services. The first thing we may need to change is the server setting. The drop-down gives you a choice of which platform you're going to be streaming to. These include Twitch, YouTube, Hitbox, Facebook, and many, many more. I'm going to presume that the vast majority of people watching this video are going to be looking to stream to Twitch or YouTube, so I'll mainly just be covering those two options in this guide. If you're looking to stream to Facebook, Hitbox, Beam.io, or even multiple sites at the same time, please check out the Gaming Careers YouTube channel for videos on those subjects. Now for Twitch, the first question you're going to be asking is which Twitch server should I be streaming to? And usually most people recommend the one that is closest to you geographically, but that's not always going to be your best option. To determine which server is best for us to stream to, we're going to be using the Twitch bandwidth test tool, which is an application we'll be downloading from the internet. It will not only help us determine the best server to stream to, but it will also tell us the maximum bitrate that server connection can handle. Click the link down in the description below to download the Twitch bandwidth test tool and extract it to your desktop using your extraction program. For me, that's 7-zip. Just as a quick side note here, if the application doesn't run and it gives you an error with the message VC runtime or something along those lines, then you probably just need to download the VS 2015 redistributable from Microsoft. There's a link to that on the website where you download the Twitch bandwidth test tool. And you just need to download and install it and then rerun the installation for the bandwidth test tool. When we first run the test tool, there are going to be a couple of options that we need to fill out before determining which server will be best for us to stream to. Firstly, we need to get our stream key from Twitch. Click the Get Key link within the tool and it will open up your Twitch dashboard in your web browser. If you're not logged into Twitch yet, then the browser will ask you to, and then you can click the link again. Make sure you're on the Stream Key tab within the dashboard and then click Show Key. You'll receive a warning just telling you not to share the key with anyone, and I'd advise reading through the warning and clicking I understand. You'll then receive a long string of characters and numbers starting with live _, which is our stream key. Also for our convenience, there's a link here to reset our key if we accidentally did show it on stream or somebody found out what our stream key was. So you can reset the key here as well. Copy the whole key and paste it into the stream key box within the tool. We can leave the TCP window settings on automatic OBS, as this replicates the mode that OBS will be using when we're streaming live to Twitch. The second option that we need to configure is the test duration. This simply tells the tool how long to run the test on each server for. The default setting is about 10 seconds, but I'd recommend leaving it to run on the long setting, which is 60 seconds. It will give you a more accurate representation of what streaming to that server would be like, although obviously it's going to take a bit of time to go through the test now. You can also select the regions which you'd like to test. I'll choose Europe since that's where I'm based, but choose whatever region makes sense for you. Once that's all set up, we're ready to start testing, so click Start and let the tests run. Don't worry, this isn't actually making your stream go live, it's purely a connection test. Once the test has completed, you should see some numbers for each of the servers that you've tested. The bandwidth test is capped at 10,000 kilobytes per second, which is fine since we won't be streaming it anywhere near that rate. Twitch recommends a maximum of 3,500. The RTT, which stands for round trip time, that simply represents the time that it took to establish the connection, and the quality is a number out of 100 which aims to rate the connection quality based on a number of things, mainly TCP retransmissions and delay between sends. So, which server is best? Well, we want to be selecting the server with the highest bandwidth, which also has a quality of above 80. If you have 2 or more servers with 100 quality and 10,000 plus kilobytes per second bandwidth, like I have, then you can count yourself lucky and choose the one with a lower latency figure. Take a note of the best server and leave the test tool open, because we're going to be using it again later. Back in OBS, select the server which was best for you from the drop down, and then paste in your Twitch stream key exactly like you did for the test tool. Next up, we have the Output tab. You'll notice that the first drop down is for the output mode, and the options are Simple or Advanced. In this guide, we're just going to be covering the Simple mode, as that is going to be allowing for the optimal setup for about 95% of users. We do have a more advanced guide on our YouTube channel though, so if that's what you're looking for in the advanced settings, then make sure you check out that video. So the first setting that we're going to be changing is the video bitrate. Now this is one of the most important settings in your stream setup, and so it is really important that you at least understand the basics as to what it does. The video bitrate tells OBS Studio what rate at which it should attempt to send your video data to the Twitch servers. Twitch will send that video data onwards to your viewers. Now if you're a new streamer and you're not partnered with Twitch, it's important to note that Twitch will not be re-encoding your stream to various different qualities for the benefit of the viewers. So if you've ever watched a big time streamer and you've been able to go into the quality options to select source, high, medium, low, mobile, that means that they're partnered with Twitch, and Twitch is re-encoding the video to various different qualities so that viewers can watch at a bitrate which suits them. You're not going to have these if you're a brand new streamer, so they will have to watch at the source quality, which is the exact bitrate that you are sending out. Now, whilst gaining a mass following on Twitch and getting partnered may well be on your to-do list, and you're at the right channel if that is the case, it's important not to be excluding any potential viewers based on their internet connections. So you don't want to be streaming at a quality that is so high that people can't watch it and it starts to stutter for them because their download rate isn't quick enough to be able to watch your stream. So after that brief description, I bet you're wondering, how can I actually choose my bitrate then? Well, hopefully you should still have the Twitch bandwidth test tool open. Look at the server that you selected and read what the bandwidth figure says. Now, we don't want to be using all of our upload bandwidth just for OBS, because we're also going to need some for the game that we're playing if it's online, as well as things like Spotify or Skype or TeamSpeak or any of those kind of applications. They're all going to need some upload bandwidth as well. So what we want to do is take 80% of our bandwidth figure, and then from now on consider that our true OBS bandwidth. Now on the table that I'm putting on screen now, I need you to select basically which corner of the square you fit into. So if you're partnered on Twitch and you have a bandwidth of more than 3,500 kbps, then you want to set the video bitrate to 3,500. If you're partnered on Twitch and the bandwidth is less than 3,500 kbps, then you want to be setting the video bitrate to whatever your bandwidth is. Now, if you're not partnered on Twitch yet and the bandwidth is more than 2,500 kbps, then you want to be setting the video bitrate to 2,500 kbps. And finally, if you're not partnered on Twitch and your bandwidth is less than 2,500 kbps, then you want to set your video bitrate to whatever your bandwidth is. Now, just remember that the reason that the lower video bitrate for non-partner channels is just purely so that you don't exclude any potential viewers, since your stream will not be re-encoded by Twitch for lower qualities. The second half of the settings within the Output tab looks at the recording options. This is useful if you ever want to record screen captures or if you just want to save your stream locally. The first option, Recording Path, just lets you determine where you want your recordings to be saved. The second drop down is for recording quality, with the default option being for recording at the same quality that you're streaming at. You also have the options of high quality, indistinguishable quality, and lossless quality. If you wish to make videos from your streams for your YouTube channel, which I recommend doing, I would recommend choosing either high quality or indistinguishable quality. There's absolutely no reason in my mind for ever choosing lossless quality, as it just takes up so much file space for really not much difference in quality. For recording format, I recommend choosing MP4. I have in the past run into some issues with the FLV format, especially to do with syncing of audio and video. Pretty much every kind of video editing software will be happy with MP4 files, and YouTube takes them pretty happily as well. So next is the audio tab. We're not going to be going into too much detail in the audio tab, just since the majority of streamers will be using a fairly basic setup. If you'd like a more advanced tutorial on how you can include and exclude certain sounds from your stream, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to do a video on using something like virtual audio cable. So although the audio tab looks a bit scary, the majority of the options can be left on their default settings. The first option we may need is the desktop audio device. The default option is what the majority of people will want to use. This will include all the sounds that your computer makes, including game sounds, music, and voice chat. The next option that may need changing is the mic or auxiliary audio device. You can usually leave this on default if you've got it set up in Windows so that your microphone is the default recording device. But if you followed one of my guides for setting up your Blue Snowball or Blue Yeti, then you'll want to be selecting the voice meter output. The last section within the audio tab allows you to enable push to talk rather than using open mic. So if you want to use this rather than using open mic, then feel free to. I leave mine on open mic, as the background noise and things, they can be taken out later using some filters. The push to mute option is also pretty useful if there's some loud noises like a car alarm going off and you want to quickly mute your microphone, or let's say your mum comes in the room asking what you want for dinner. You can just quickly mute your stream with the click of a button. Next tab is the video tab. So the first question here really is, what resolution should I stream at? The base canvas resolution represents your monitor's true resolution, or at least the resolution which you actually want to be playing your game at on your own monitor. So I leave mine at 1920 by 1080, as that's the resolution of my monitor. The output or scaled resolution represents the resolution which you actually want to stream at. Now there are a few determining factors as to what resolution you should use here. The first is your bitrate. Twitch recommends the following resolutions based on bitrate. Now just because your bitrate can handle 1920 by 1080 from Twitch's recommendations doesn't necessarily mean that you should be streaming at that resolution. Your computer is technically encoding twice as much information at 1080p compared to 720p, so your computer will need to be really quite high-end for it to be able to stream at 1080p. If you suffer any severe in-game frame rate loss, then this could well be your issue. I'd recommend lowering this value to 720p if that is the case. If you did need to downscale your output resolution, then you can leave the downscale filter on its default option, which is bicubic. Now the second big question is, what frame rate or FPS should I stream at? This again depends on a few different factors. Firstly, I'd recommend if you're not partnered with Twitch, then you'd leave this at 30 FPS. First-person shooter games such as CSGO or Overwatch, they have a lot of high motion in the scene and can generally look at quite a lot better with a higher frame rate, but it does come at a cost. You'll need a higher bitrate to be able to maintain the same image quality, since you're going to be sending more frames of data per second, and your video quality is determined by kbps, kilobits per second. So if you want to try an FPS value of 45 or an FPS value of 60, then be prepared for a little bit of a drop in quality. Also, as stated in the video bitrate section, if you're a new streamer, it's likely that you aren't partnered with Twitch, and so your viewers are going to be forced to watch at the same quality, resolution, and frame rate which you stream at. So bear this in mind. You don't want to be preventing any potential viewers from watching a stream just because of the high bitrate for their poorer connection. In general, if you're going to be streaming a MOBA game, maybe something from Bird's Eye View, there isn't too much high motion, so actually there isn't that much difference in the viewing experience of 30 FPS when compared to 45 or 60. It's really the FPS games, like I said, first-person shooter games, Overwatch, CSGO, those kind of things, that can really benefit from a higher frame rate. Only a couple more sections to go now. Firstly, the hotkeys tab is pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. If you'd like to take advantage of using a certain key or combination of keys to perform a specific function in OBS, then this is where you'd set that up. If in the audio tab, for example, you selected that you wanted to use push to talk or push to mute, then you can set which key you'd like to use here. Now in the advanced tab, it does look a little bit chaotic, but we'll be leaving the majority of the options at their defaults here. Leave the process priority at normal unless you really know what you're doing, as this is more likely to cause you issues than fix them. The options within video can all be left at their default. If you would like to set a specific file name format for your recordings, then you can set that here. Also, if you would like to implement a stream delay to prevent your viewers from seeing in real time, then you can add a delay here. Realistically though, Twitch already adds a 5 to 10 second delay between you sending the data and then that being sent to the viewer. So I'd recommend leaving this option disabled, but it's completely up to you. The automatically reconnect section allows you to set up what you want OBS to do if you drop your connection to Twitch, but I'd advise just leaving this as its default. And that's it, all the settings are done, so you can now hit apply and OK to save your changes to your current profile. It's worth bearing in mind that these settings are only saved against the profile which we set up initially, meaning if you want to create a second profile with different settings, you can quite easily do so. Each profile has their own settings saved against it. Now we're really nearly done, we just need to finish by adding some scenes and sources. So to start, we'll go down to the plus icon here and add a new scene. Name it whatever you want. I'm going to call this game because it's going to be the scene with my game in it. Now in sources is where you're going to be adding the actual windows or text or images or webcams and all that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into loads of detail here, so we're just going to add the game, which for me will be Overwatch. So I'm just going to click the plus icon and select game capture and then find the Overwatch window, which has to be running at the same time so that it can actually detect it. Select that and we should see a preview in the main window. Now that is pretty much it in terms of the stream settings. Obviously you can do a lot more in terms of adding overlays and webcams and images and all these kinds of things, but I'll be covering those in more specific videos. Really, I just wanted this video to be about getting the settings right in the back end of OBS Studio. So hopefully you found that video helpful. If you have, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. And as I said earlier, if you're new to Gaming Careers YouTube channel, then have a look around at the other videos now. We've got loads really just helping you build up your YouTube and Twitch audiences so that you can make a profession out of your gaming passion. And until next time, peace.